Welcome to the Commercial Kitchen Chronicles, a podcast dedicated to the commercial food and commodity repair industry. My name is Pat Finley. I'm a lead master certified technician at General Parts Group and a certified successor trainer. My goal is to shine a light on what I believe to be one of the most interesting and rewarding industries a field service technician can work in. I love the work I do, and I'm glad you're here listening to this podcast. In this episode, I talk with Colton, aka the Viking Pipefitter with Viega. We are live from AHR.
So I was lucky enough to get a slot. It just happened to be one of the last slots of the entire show. So here I am. But I am very fortunate to be here. I want to thank everybody for being here and supporting me. I want to thank Colton for coming on. Colton's with Viega. He is a trainer.
Yeah.
A little more.
Yeah, they call me trainer, technical consultant. The roles changed a couple times, but I do the same thing.
I say social media guru. So. If you don't know, my name is Pat Finley. I host a show called Commercial Kitchen Chronicles. I repair restaurant equipment, install and repair restaurant equipment, fryers, ovens, combi ovens, grills, anything in a restaurant, I'll work on it. Dish machines, ice machines, if it's there, or I'll try to fix it if not. So I started this podcast just to try to spread awareness on what I do and try to, show another avenue for trades. There's a lot of people who don't know what I do. And I think it's a cool job, it's a rewarding job, and I make a lot of money doing it, so why not spread the word? So, but my goal is to have people on to promote the trade. So Colton does a pretty good job showing all the cool stuff he does at Viega and getting all the younger people involved. So I figured I'd have Colton on. He could talk about his journey into the trades, where he started, where he's been, and how he got to Viega, and we go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of have a weird path into the trades. When I was a kid, we had a ranch and stuff, so I learned how to do a lot of things as a young man. I learned a lot of mechanical stuff. That kind of transferred out. I did try to go to college for about 6 months. I needed to stay on my parents' health insurance plan, and you had to be enrolled in school for that. So I went to college. That did not pan out for me, obviously. So that's when my dad said he had a buddy who needs somebody with a driver's license. So I had a driver's license, so that's when I started at Union as a pipe fitter.
Fits.
It worked out super well, and then I just went to work, worked hard every single day, did what I was supposed to do. In my third year, I started getting to run crews and stuff because I had tried really hard and I had some of that prior knowledge coming in. And then I kind of worked my way through that pretty quick. So by the end of my career, I was a superintendent, run a lot of jobs, had a lot of different weld certs, but at that point I was trying to manage employees. It was great. It was super fun. I liked doing it, but I kind of found that I was like 27 years old and I was at the top. Like I was like, well, I'm a super. This is where I'm going to be in the trades forever. So I started to open up my eyes and I wanted to look for something else to do. My company actually built Viega's headquarters. They did the mechanical on it. And I had a buddy who got a trainer from the plumbing side, trainer position, and he said it was really cool. So I was like, well, I think I can be a trainer for Viega. So I went and did the interview because they already knew that they liked me, and I got the job at Viega as a trainer just so I could try to expand what I was doing. Plus, I love the product, so I've been using Viega the whole time that I was a pipe fitter. So coming over and training on it was kind of like second nature. Like I already use this stuff, I already talk about it, I already know how it works. So now I just teach other people how to do that. Did a little bit of social media. I kind of got into it by accident. I didn't have cable or internet until I worked for Viega. So I was about 29 when I got cable and internet. I always tell people the story. When I moved into my house, I actually cut the cable off my house because I didn't want it attached. It was like right through the middle of my yard, so I just cut that cable off and just fell back to the power cord. And then Viega wanted me to go home and train for my house, and like, you gotta have Wi-Fi, and I was like, I don't even know what Wi-Fi is. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. So they sent me home with a little hotspot. I blew up the hotspot. They had a lot of big bills because like I didn't know how it was working, so we were watching movies and stuff. And they're like, you need to get like a real internet back to your house. So that's how I got into it, and then I got into social, and I just love the platform. It's super cool to kind of get to reach some of these younger guys and push them to something like I had, because I grew up with not a lot, and then I got into the trades, and now I have a lot of cool stuff, and it's all based in me being mechanically inclined and being able to go to work and work hard. So it's a great way. I think some people, they have like the helmets to hard hats type thing. In my world, it's a little bit more of like handcuffs to hard hats. Like, I gotta find something I can do to make good money, and it was a great career choice for me and kept me out of trouble.
That's a cool story. So I grew up dirt poor, bounced around from house to house. I changed schools a million times growing up as a kid. I started off as an electrician in trade school in high school, so you could do vocational. So I took 2 years of electrical. So we'd wire a house every year, and it'd be like a habitat thing, it'd be a partnership with that. So we'd build a house, wire it, we had all different phases. And then we'd also do electrical maintenance in school. So here I am, 17 years old, and I'm working in classrooms on 277-volt lighting circuits with these kids in there. I'm blowing up strippers, blowing up lines. I mean, it was terrible, dude. Out in the parking lot, getting shocked at the parking lot lights, and the light's not on. Well, the photo says at the top of the pole, and I didn't know that. No one explained to me. I'm at the base of the pole, play the 408 volts. So I've always been fascinated with working with my hands. I've always tore everything apart, and it fits me well. So I was an electrician for 6-7 years coming out of high school. I went union, the market kind of tanked, and then I had to start a class. If you're not in class, you're the first one to go. I mean, they support the guys in their class, because they have to come in. So I didn't get picked up doing a class, everything kind of tanked, and I lost that job. So I went non-union for 6 years, and I got stuck doing track homes and apartments, and it was the same thing every single day. And I have ADHD. If you know anything about ADHD, you cannot do the same thing every single day. So my dad worked for a company doing what I do, and he started off as HVAC. I didn't really do it, but he worked in the restaurant industry. He transferred over, so he got me a job at the company he was at, and they got bought out by a different company. He had to be part of the takeover. So he got me in, and I did 3 years training. For hot side, I went to refrigeration, and they didn't teach me refrigeration. They're like, "You're good enough on hot side, just let it fly." I'm like, "I can't have this, I'm bored." So I jumped ship and went to a company that said they were going to teach me refrigeration. Their idea of teaching me refrigeration was shit's in the van, figure it out.
Just go do it. Throw you to the wolves.
So that's how I've been doing refrigeration for 11 years now. It's been a great journey. It suits me well, though, because I can't focus on one thing. It's always something different. So how I got started in the podcast and social media stuff, I had social media. I started listening to podcasts. I was listening to Gil, I was listening to Tool Pros and all those other guys. And I started following all these guys on Instagram. I'm like, these guys have thousands of followers, got all these cool tools and stuff. I'm like the plumbers, the Omars, everybody out there, they have all the cool stuff. I'm like, well, there's no one showing the restaurants. Let's get in on that. So that's where I jumped in. I said I was going to do a podcast and ADHD style. I was like, I forgot about it. But my work car, when I said something about it, and they liked the idea. So I was walking past the vice president of operations office, and he's like, "Hey Pat, I want to talk to you." And I was like, "Oh man, what do I do?" And he's like, "No, it's good. Come on in." He's like, "It's a good podcast." I was like, "Oh, he's pretending I can't do it now." He's like, "We're going to support you." I was like, "Oh man, now I got it."
Well, it's almost worse. It's like the golden handcuffs. Like you got a good thing, and like now you got to keep it and make sure it is a good thing, right?
It's great though, man. I love it. At first it's stressful. There's still stressful times now, but I get to meet so many cool people like you, do interviews. It's a blast. I'm just trying to spread the word on the trades, man. Like when I was growing up, that's when schools really started pushing. You have to go to college. You have to go to college. You have to go to college. It's a bad thing to do. I mean, yes, there's colleges needed for people, but it's not needed for what I do. It's not needed for what you do. I mean, unless you want to be an engineer, something like that. But I make a ton of money doing this. It's fun. And my son, he's my apprentice now. 20 years old. He's making double what I may start now with 16 years ago. He lives in my house still, so he's got it pretty made. But so he was like, he wouldn't play football, and he could have went and played football somewhere. He kind of got the COVID thing kind of screwed. He did really good, but didn't get into school visits and stuff. And he was starting to get to it. He was trying to figure out what he was going to do. And his buddies were going to JUCO and stuff. And I'm like, look, you're going to make too much money. You're not going to get anything for free.
Yeah.
I said, you screwed around at parties. Your grades suck. I was like, so you're on your own, dude. So whatever you do, you're going to have to pay for it. I was like, I know what's going to happen. You're going to go out to Oklahoma with your buddies. It's going to be drink fest. And you're never going to class. You're going to fill out. You're going to owe thousands of dollars. And I was like, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to warn you what you're getting into. And it worked. So he was trying to be a lineman. That it falters. He's actually working with me now. But I don't want guys to think that you have to go to college and have a six-year career. I can do it easily, and I mean it's out there. How hard you want to work and what you want to learn is as far as you go. So.
What I always point out to people is you have endless opportunities. I think a lot of different careers have a stopping point in them. There's always a point where it's well, this is what I do, this is how much I get paid, this is the end of the market. And when you look at construction, there's just tons of different avenues. If you want to end up in sales, you end up in sales out of it. If you want to turn and go back into the trades and dig in deeper and train people like you are, you get even deeper into that. So it really opens up that door to people in a way that I don't think they even understand. So I don't know, like you said, talking to the younger guys, I really liked, we had a high school group today and I walked them around and you could be a business owner, you could work for somebody else if you don't want to take on all the insurance and all that worrisome kind of stuff. So there's all these different avenues, and it's literally whatever you put in. Like I like something where like my input is my output. As hard as I try, is what I get, how much I get paid. It's just a really interesting way to go about work. So I don't know. I think too many people miss out on it. College is great. I point out to a lot of people. My wife went to college. She's got a master's degree in counseling, and I make a whole hell of a lot more money than her. So it's not even a bad thing. It's just that there's not enough value put on things like that sometimes. And if you go to college and you don't have a focus, you're really in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, we're in such high demand in all trades that the money is ridiculous. Like I said, my son is making like double what I started off 16 years ago, and he still lives in the same room he's lived in for the last 17, 18 years in his house. So.
Well, it's kind of scary to think about actually when he has that much money. It's a dangerous thing for a young man to have a whole lot of money.
Technically, his account's still linked to ours, so we know how much money he has. He's got a goal. He wants to save $75,000 to buy a house. So
that's cool.
But he's smart. I mean, he just did terrible school because he had ADHD, and we never tested him. I just I had it. I dealt with it, figured it out, find an outlet. And my outlet was barely making it out of high school. And his outlet was, I want to go hang out, play sports, and hope for the best. And he made it out. But yeah, he's a smart kid. He does day trading. Like one day in like 15 minutes, he's like, I just made $800. I'm like, what? He's like, 15 minutes, I made $800. I'm like, why are you working here?
Yeah. Well, I think people learn differently too. So a lot of this stuff, like a lot of college and all the reason that's good is that can you sit down and do your homework every night and follow the rules? And for me, I'm a smart guy, but I can't follow a single rule. I'm never going to do what somebody else tells me to do, and I'm going to run whatever that is into the ground. Whereas with the trades, it opens it up a little bit, and you get to work with your hands and do something a little bit different, and touch things and feel things versus, hey, this is your work, go do your work and stick to it. So I like that kind of open feel to the business where I can do what I want sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm my own boss. Yes, I have a boss and a dispatcher and a phone, but I mean, how fast I fix a call or how fast I get to my next call is all up to me. All I want to do. If I say, this call will take a little longer, I just do it. It doesn't park there. Overtime calls come in, emergencies come in, and that happens. But I'm my own boss for the most part. I mean, they got GPS and they tell me where to go, but I'm listening whenever I want to on the radio. If I want to have headphones in, I do. I mean, it's cool. It was the same when I was an electrician. I could do whatever I want and have fun. It was a blast. I got bored and I wanted more. And like where I'm at now, I'm a tech. I worked with the lead tech, and then now I train for us and our sanctioning body. And then, I do the social media stuff, and they support me with that. So I'm trying to push the trades that way and try to push my trade, all the trades in general. But it's never ending. Like I was talking to my marketing guys, I want to get more involved in marketing stuff. I said, I love what you do. I said, we need to have other stuff that we do, the shows that we do, not just the guys standing beside the ovens, fixing stuff up or the van. I'm like, we need to show guys in there getting after it, fixing stuff, that kind of stuff. So that's something I'm working on when I get back. And he's like, you sure you want to take on more? And I was like, you've been dealing with me for the last year and a half. You already know the answer to this.
Absolutely. So you were talking about going faster. When do you get to press? I know commercial kitchen is a lot different than a lot of the areas that Viega plays in. But I know we've talked a little bit about you have gas-fired equipment, so you might get to do some mega press, propress on drains, things like that.
Yeah, so I'd be able to. I rent a tool. I'm terrible. I'll go pay the money to rent a tool from the supply house and buy the things. Because I don't want to do fire watch. I mean, you understand fire watch. For anyone doesn't know, fire watch is where you can't have a burn. You have the guy standing there. I mean, I've heard some as far as 24 hours. You're going to pay 3 guys to stand there 8 hours for nothing. It speeds up the job. It's safer. It looks better. I mean, I don't solder enough to make it look all nice and pretty. Mine's got 3 little burgers hanging off of it. It looks like cat crap. I mean, it's terrible. I just don't do it enough. But the press, it's not taking the skill out of it. It's making it easier and making my job more efficient. So I do water lines. So a lot of times I'll get to a job and I'll just have a stub on, a copper stub on.
Okay.
And then most of the time I just slid on a male adapter and just threaded brass on there. I hate the looks of it. It's all bulky and nasty. So, if I can, I try to press copper on there and try to mount it. Well, I want to make it good. I want to make it look like, Jeff or Mike Flynn did, not some guy in the kitchen. So,
No.
So I do some copper stuff. I try to change. Anytime I see PEX through the wall, I'm not going to try to change it over to something rigid. It's just, it's in the kitchen. People hit with cards and all kinds of stuff. So I changed it over to something rigid now, so it's not going to rip off the wall. And then I'm trying to get into the mega press gas because all the time, man, I'll run into the kitchen. Hey, we're ready for install. You get there, and it's got a 3 or 4 inch gas main across the back. And it's got a T, and it's got a 3/4 inch hook up. I'm like, I need an inch and a quarter, I need an inch. I can't do nothing. It's like, I'll just put an adapter on there. I'm like, well, gas doesn't work that way. It doesn't like to be choked down and blown back up. You're gonna have issues.
Yep.
And then projects on hold, I'll call a plumber. So if I have the capabilities to go in and cut that out and make a price gas in, I can take care of it myself. I may have to get fittings, but I'm not waiting a week for a plumber to come in and I'm going to take all these lines apart. Because in a kitchen, I mean, you can have a 10-foot wall, or you can have a 100-foot wall for this stuff. You never know what you're going to run into. So just the capabilities of what you can do with that tool just blows everything out of the way.
It's super nice to do that and like pop in there. And especially on those larger sizes, like versus like you said, a week, and then somebody's got to come and make a weld, so you're like shutting the gas all the way down and make a weld, purging it all the way out, versus like, I'm going to shut the gas off, but I'm going to cut it and press it in, not worry about blowing anything up.
Yeah.
It's going to be ready to go when I want it ready to go today. And it kind of opens up your whole company now, right? So you guys aren't paying somebody else. Because every time you're like, I got to pay a third person to come in and help us out now.
So that's the problem. A lot of times they're like, what's the cost? What's the cost? What's the cost? And like, well, the fittings are more expensive, but guess what? It's time, speed, and the way it looks makes up for that. It's like, well, what's tool? Tool's expensive. I'm like, well, if you use a tool, it's like we have other tools we use, we charge a fee for. We can charge a fee for using this tool. And so they're starting to catch on, they're starting to understand it. So I'm trying to press the price out, setups for a few of the markets. I'm not sure. I'll make sure my office gets going. But I know we're going to do quite a few of them, so I'm trying to get it all set up. But I mean, I want to be able to do all kinds of stuff. I want to be able to do refrigerant lines, I want to be able to do water, gas, everything. So the biggest can do copper is 2-inch, but gas is just kind of, you never know what you're running into. It could be a 2-inch manifold, it could be a 4-inch manifold. I've got restaurants that have 10-pound systems now.
Oh, yeah.
They can't, I don't know, it's crazy, man.
That's a lot of gas.
I said 2 pounds, and I was like, I figured it's a 2-pound system. And the guy was walking out, he's like, yeah, are you going to install this piece? I was like, yeah. He's like, you got a 10-pound regulator? And I was like, no. He's like, that's what happened. They put a regulator on there and they melted the thing. It literally was like a cast iron tilt skillet, stainless steel top. It was like waved. It was 10. I can't believe the valve opened.
I've actually seen a couple of those high pressure. I redid a school right before I went to Viega, and it was like their cafe area, and it was 10-pound gas. So we did the same thing. We had to change out the regulators on the roof because they were all set for 2 pounds. So like nothing was working correctly. And they tried to blame me for it, and I was like, no, I don't know what's going on here, but it's definitely not my fault.
Yeah, I mean, normally in that situation, they'll have a big regulator, in the kitchen or in the ceiling. They didn't. They were just feeding everything. I was like, I'm glad you said something, dude. That's why I was like, I'd have been responsible for a $10,000 piece of equipment coming in paperweight. So.
Well, I appreciate it. That's for sure. I like getting us into like a business that's not normally thought of too. You know what I mean? People, I don't think people understand. Like we use this in a lot of different places, so it's always nice to start like getting somebody to press who like maybe thought it was like never a thing. So I remember when you and I first started talking, and I was like, I'm trying to get you a tool, and like we can probably figure this out. And you're like, I don't even know what I would press, dude. Yeah. Like I don't know why I would want it. You know?
I mean, it's coming that way. It's gaining popularity amongst our office, and we're huge into safety right now. We got some guys get hurt doing stuff, and some stuff they shouldn't be doing. It's like if we got a lot of newer guys, and that's I use that to my advantage to try to get this perfect right through. I'm like, we got newer guys. I don't know if they can do this. You don't want them to burn up a wall at school or something, because sometimes it's not stainless steel. Sometimes it's formica and they just pop it through. I'm like, this guy doesn't have a mat or doesn't have a way to block the heat and burn up that formica. He's over here with a torch. I'm like, now all of a sudden, now we got to call a contractor back in to fix the wall. And
I mean, even the experienced guys, like I can't, like I'm not gonna lie and say I've never lit a stud on fire. Like I've done it, it's happened.
Dude, I've crawled underneath some hot wells, and like that's like a problem. It's like hot wells. They're built in, and they'll have a copper drain, and you go in there, guys, they'll cut it out, and instead of soldering back together, you go in there and there's shark bites in there. I'm like, this is like 200-degree water. You can't have that pouring through a shark bite. So every time I see one like that, I always quote for all new copper. I always try to quote unions. I always try to go back in and press it back in. Yeah. Put the unions on there. I put them on the downspout so you can take it off so you get the well out. That's the problem. They change the wells. They don't get prepared. They just hack it out and hack it in, man.
Yeah. Well, you're on the service side. I think it's funny. So I grew up construction.
Yeah.
I put in new stuff. So like when you're in construction, you're always like, screw the service guy. Like who cares? Like you just put it in hard pipe and you're like, he'll deal with it. And then I moved a little bit, like my company, like we had some service stuff and I had to start doing service work, and it changed my outlook on every install I had ever done. I'm like, those were some jerk moves. Like there's gotta be a way to fix this someday.
Yeah, so I install a lot of equipment. I install a lot of carbon ovens, and we do like dish machine installs and dish heater installs, and it's always like underneath a shoe coming in a dish machine or back behind a dish machine, they'll set the dish machine, hey, we need to drink the water. And I'm like, where's it at? Like you climb over top of a dish machine, like how am I gonna do that back there? If you can get in there and press it up and just press it and come up, you're good.
Literally reach over the back and like press it in.
Terrible, man. You know, climbing underneath those dish machines, it's generally when I'm installing, it's not too bad, but there's water, it's hot, it's tight spaces.
Yeah.
I mean, no one wants to run a torch underneath there.
Yeah. The last time we did a kitchen too, it was one of my first kitchen installs, so we ran the gas pipe out of the wall, and then they were going to come hook up all the stoves and stuff. So I ran it out, and I had a valve there, and I plugged the valve so they could hook it up. And then it came down the line that I was hooking up all the stoves. I was like, oh, I'm the guy like to do all of this.
So you're not the guy that's put the hose in backwards for me, have you? Quick connects?
No, it's not backwards. Everything was in the right direction. Everything worked out right. But like when I got there, and like they've got those clips on the walls that like holds it in case it pulls out so it doesn't rip the gas line off and all that stuff. And like I just like, I don't know, it was like a new venture for me to like be doing that part of it. And it's one of those things where I was so glad that like, not even to sell for Viega, but I was so glad that I used Mega Press, because a couple of them I turned the wrong direction. So the way the feed came out, like it wasn't, like it just couldn't reach, and I just like got on there and like turned it back over, like there you go. Like, I'm super glad this was pressed.
That's the coolest thing I like with the gas system is you can make a swing joint out of it, or if you mess up and you got to move a little bit, you can do it. So there's a lot of possibilities in this stuff. So it's cool, man. I love all the stuff you guys offer. I love watching your content, dude. The stuff you come up with is great. The biggest thing I like about you is what you do appeals to the younger guys. I mean, I said this comment before, a lot of guys think it's old, fat, crusty guys and trays, and it's not. I mean, these younger guys come in, they're smart. I mean, they don't want to do the hours since the guys have been doing it for a while, I've done it, but if I can get them come in and work 45 hours a week, 40 hours a week, I'll take them all day long, man.
Absolutely. Well, and we're going to need the younger generation. I keep saying it, like progression is born of, retirement and death. Mm-hmm. And we've got a lot of people retiring and dying. So like, we have to get a new, younger crowd into it. So it is a good point. You can make good money.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you and I have both proven, like, you can look cool doing it and have a good time doing it. Yeah. Like, it's not this, like, horrible, I can't believe I have to do this job. There's really sucky days, but the sucky days always seem to be worth it. Like, when I look back at my career and I start talking about, like, these different days, like, the stories I go back to and, like, what I'm proud of were those hard days. Yeah. The easy ones, you don't go back, like, oh, remember that super easy day? Like, remember we struggled through, we got this done, we took care of somebody, we made some money doing it. Like, it's a cool career that gives you a lot of pride in what you do. And I think most people miss pride in, like, what they do in their lives. Like, they kind of have, like, a meaningless job. Whereas, like, when I look back at what I've done, I'm like, man, I can take pride in everything that I've done because it was actually fun. But on top of that, like, people got some stuff that they needed done.
Yeah, I'd like to be an electrician, but like I said, I got stuck doing track house apartments. It's the same thing, so that's kind of got burnt out on it. I thought the service would probably be a little different. I'd probably still want to do this situation, but I love the install side where it looks great. You get it all done, the pipes are all straight, they're all attached to the wall, they look great. And then the service, I'm the lead tech, and I don't get a lot of the easy stuff. I get the stuff the other guys get there and they screwed up. And like, oh, well, he's been out here 5 times, and you look, he's been out there 7 times, and like he's got a list of parts. Like, where are all these parts at? Oh, they're on there. I'm like, oh man, here we go. Yeah. You get up there, like I fix it, like. I'm like patting myself on the back and I get a little bit of an ego.
Yeah.
It's cool to get a little bit of swagger. I love it because it's rewarding. To know that you went in there and fixed something that someone else didn't, it's cool.
I used to always come home and tell my wife, I was like, I feel like I'm being punished for being good at my job. Because I would do the same thing. Like, if somebody sucked and, like, blew up a job and destroyed it, they're like, well, Colton, you can go handle it. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I get all the worst jobs because nobody else will do it. I'm like, this is so sad.
Oh, yeah. I'm the same way. I'm like, same breath. I'm like, oh, I'm the only guy who fix this, and then I have to go fix it. I'm like, man, I don't want to fix this. Make someone else learn this stuff, man.
Yeah.
Like, you just were bragging about it. Now it's your chance to shine.
But it does push you a little bit, though. So, like, when you get to a couple of those and you've helped people out and stuff, like, you're like, when they're on their way out, you're like, hey, like, I would have done this, and this. Like, I would have handled these things this way, and like maybe next time it won't have to be me. Like, you can kind of take up that slack a little bit.
Well, I always try to explain to them, if I go behind someone, I want them to be there, and it doesn't always work because we're understaffed. But if they can be there, I like to be there and like walk them through how I came out and show them what they did wrong, and hopefully they learn from it. Guys come in for tech support all the time, and I don't give them the answer. I'll know the answer from the symptoms because I've done it long enough. I've done it enough times, but I always ask them questions. Something's not like, what's your gas pressure? Oh, it's okay. I'm like, no, that's not the answer. I need the pressure. I'm like, oh, no, it's fine. I'm like, no, fine, okay, it's not an answer. You didn't check it. You're lying to me. Exactly. So I try to lead them down the path that they'll figure it out. And a lot of times they won't come for anything because they know. It's like, oh, I figured it out last time. And it's just trying to teach people.
Yeah, I enjoy teaching. Like, it's so crazy that I enjoy, like, I train for Viega, so I teach all day. And like coming from like the background that I did, I hated school. I did not like teachers, like, because I was a bad student, so of course they didn't like me.
Well, they just teach the way you could learn. School's it's a book, man. Teachers are pitching toes, whatever you want to call it, into a certain path. They have to take that path. And even when it doesn't fit that path, you're just considered a bad student. When really it is, they don't take the time to adapt to your learning style, I think. And I think we do a poor job as a country.
Well, that's kind of what's cool about Viega. So like when we started doing our virtual training, our first virtual trainings were PowerPoints. Get on, there's virtual, here's me clicking through PowerPoints. I did a couple of those, and I started thinking to myself, I was like, if I had to show up to this class and take a PowerPoint class from Viega, I would never do it again. So we did a couple of those, and I reached out to my boss, and I was like, hey man, can we just like turn on the camera? Like, let me show some fittings, let me do what I do in person, but like, let me do it on camera. And they were open to it. He was like, yeah, that's a great idea. Did a couple of those, and then all of a sudden it was like, all the trainers need to do this. We need to get better cameras. We need to start doing different angles. We need to figure this and that out. So we took something that was just like a little idea and kind of sucked. Like, we didn't want to do virtual training, but we had to, and we turned it into something that was really special. So I think people reach out all the time, and like they'll take a meeting with us, and we leave, and they're surprised. They're like, man, I did not want to come to this, but it was so good and it was so cool. And like when they say that, you're like, all right, this is all worth it. Like, I'm so glad we went this way. Like, makes me feel good about it. Like, we're different. We're doing it the right way.
So I teach for Cephas in refrigeration. I do it a couple times a year. So I was actually supposed to go to one of the classes. I've been doing refrigeration for like 8 years at this point. And my boss was like, why don't you go to this class? I'm like, I'll take any class you give me. I didn't know it was basic level. So I had a big job come up to school, had some walk-ins go down, and instead of fixing it, they wanted to rebuild. So like, he canceled I didn't get into class, he canceled it. And all of a sudden over the summer, my president of the company was like, hey, you're going to go to this festival to teach refrigeration. I'm like, what? Yeah, we want you to do it. So I went out there. The first time I wasn't teaching, I just sat through the class to see what it was. It was literally 90% of PowerPoints. Dude, there's pictures from Copeland from like the 80s in these PowerPoints, dude. And I was like, I'm going to beat my head against the wall.
There's like that old corny voiceover of the whole presentation.
Yeah, dude, it's just like, this is miserable. So I came back and okay, we want to add some more hands-on. Okay, so then once I officially got announced as the trainer, like, okay, we're going to revamp it. So now I'm about 50-50. So I'm trying to work out all that stuff. And I told him, okay, I was like, I'm only using 3 TVs in the classroom. Like, well, there's 4 TVs, we'll choose number 4. I was like, no, one's going to stay in the lab. So I keep my computer back in the lab. I can show it there, and I get these guys to tear stuff up. They're trying to do install. They do an install program, so they're wanting to get into press world too. So I teach everything, man. I start out the basic refrigeration cycle, thermodynamics, and work my way through. I try to do it all hands-on, dude. PowerPoints is just. The first time I did it, I made PowerPoints. I'm like, this is stupid. I don't want to do this. These guys don't want to see this. Let's go back there and tear some stuff up.
There's this tiny little benefit to some of the PowerPoints, like having that little backup, because some people like to read and see it. So if you're gonna like have that PowerPoint, like let them see a picture, let them talk about it. But I like use that as like a jumping point for everything else. And like I think something that I missed as a student is like you said, like they didn't teach the way that I learned. So they just threw it the same way they've always thrown it. If I'm in a group and I notice that this group is like antsy, I'm like, we're in the shop all day. If I'm with a group and it's like they're more relaxed and like maybe they had a rough night and I can tell that they like don't want to be standing up and like doing all the shop stuff, like we get a little bit more classroom and we go a little bit more technical, and having the ability to kind of like pivot on that and just like have all those capabilities is what sets it up. And like that's why I feel lucky to be at Viega, because not only do I get to do like the cool training and stuff, but like they've also provided a multi-million-dollar facility that I get to do the social stuff out of. Like I get to provide that to other people. They see the value in it, so we get to bring that like twofold plan, like training all day, getting to do that cool stuff, and when I've got the time, I get to put out cool content that has to do with Viega and show it off a little bit. So I think a lot of people are like, oh, you're so good at it. I'm like, well, I've got a pretty good support around me. Like I have myself, and then like we literally have the Viega social team and like social and PR manager, like these people who do the real job. And I'm just making fun videos, so it like all ties in together really well.
Yeah, I mentioned that conversation. Like, man, you do really good. He's like, no, I got a lot of people behind me to support me. They're really good at their job. So, and I'm getting that way too. I won the social content award somehow, and I still am blown away and amazed by it. But my social media guy from my company is like, oh, you post too much. I'm like, look, see, I don't post too much. So, but he's always there to help me out. My parent company wanted to like, hey, if you record stuff, you send it to us, we'll edit it to you, and we send it back, and you post. I'm like, I don't want it super edited. I don't want people to know that someone else is doing it. I want it to come from me.
Yeah, a little rough and raw.
I'm like, you can see my progression from when I first started where I'm at now, and eventually you'll see where I go. I mean, I don't want someone to do it for me, but I appreciate the support and the feedback, and they're like, hey, do this, if you need this, record this way. So it's cool that they support me. So it sounds like you've got a great support staff too, so that's really cool.
Yeah, one having that support too, because like I'm good at it and I have like a natural knack for it, but like having people like Becca who like runs our stuff and who's there to like kind of like back me up and like tell me like, hey, right now like this kind of thing is trending. Like what we're seeing is this and this. Like most people don't have that. Most people don't have like a whole team who's like, I'm really good at this. Like let me kind of lead you down this path. And like maybe this could be a good idea, and like you could try that out. Like it's a different feel to it.
Yeah. So our parent company has all that, but my company, our little corner of the company doesn't have it. We got a marketing guy, and I'm trying. That's what I want to do. I want to be more like try to. I don't want to come out of the field. I want to like help the social media, try to help grow that side of it a little more. I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's cool.
Well, and I think you need the twofold.
Yeah.
Like it would be crazy to say like all of a sudden like I'm just gonna do marketing.
Yeah.
Because then what do? You start to lose touch with like who you are and why like people like you and why we like your content, why you won the award because you're that real guy.
Yeah.
You pull out of the field and all you do is the other stuff. Like there goes all that benefit to being one of us. You know what I mean?
Well, they said about teaching, and I was like, I don't want to come out with it completely because I feel I'll lose all relevancy. Because my market is growing so fast. Like now you're playing with, not playing, but you're utilizing your stuff all the time. You get a hands-on and stuff. I feel if I lose all the hands-on, I'm just going to lose it. I mean, anybody can stand there and tell you how it works, but when they're coming out with a new controller, I mean, these always have touch screens. They have like iPads coming out. Like these things self-diagnose. Like I can literally open it up, and I can test each individual component, turn burners on, turn heat on. I don't know what's going to come next, but I don't want to miss out on it because I'm not in the field anymore. All of a sudden, you're asking for class.
What do you do? You miss it and then read about it in the book, and some guy comes in and you're like talking about it. He's like, no. He's like, you have to hit the back button 4 times, and you scroll down to this screen, and you're like, well, I've never touched it, so I don't know. Like you said, like you don't want to get outdone by who you're trying to help.
So that's another thing. Like we have this software we use, and the lady teaches in the office. She never uses the software, so we have people sit in class and like that use the software. So they were having problems with a new company, a new acquisition. They were switching over, and they called me earlier, and I was sitting there, and I was like, no, you gotta do it this way, this way, this way. Like, well, that makes sense. I'm like, well, that's how we do it. Like, So it's just amazing the things that are out there. So.
When you learn so much better, like we do a lot of tooling stuff. Like I'll be talking with the tooling manufacturer about their press tool, and I'll like ask them a question, and they like won't be able to answer the question, and I'm like, do I know more about this than you do because I touch it all day and like I've been screwed with it? Like I heard about one of the press competitions out there. The guys were saying that the tool was faulting out. It wouldn't make more than 4 presses in a minute. And like I was telling everybody, I was like, so what you guys were doing wrong was like you have to wait this long after each press before you pull the trigger, or else it does not like reset its counter. Like you could have all gone faster, but who presses all day like I do? Like there's not many people who are trying to make more than 4 presses a minute like I have to all the time.
It was just a race we had. So like the one tool, like you go back to back to back, and it was literally like a second and a half faster too. So it was like a huge concert. It was all fun though. We had a blast. My team got our butts kicked. I had my little Canadian buddy that talked trash for 2 weeks, and then we get stomped. And then he was talking, so he was chirping the Shaw so much, and Shaw was chirping back. I was like, we got our butts kicked talking trash. You heard me butt kicked. You guys butt kicked too.
Of course,
so it was great. It was all in fun though, man. This environment, this community that's born from social media is amazing, dude.
It's kind of wild. I love it. My wife makes fun of me. She's like, you're out there. She's like, you're like a hero. You're like a celebrity. I'm like, at AHR. I'm like, nowhere else in the world. I'm like, at AHR, everyone knows me, but like the rest of the world is like, we don't care.
Dude, that's the same way. I was at Natham last week, which is a restaurant show. Like, all kinds of people like, we watch your content, we love you. The president of my company came up and was talking to me. I didn't know who he was, and he like came up a couple times talking to me. So, and I see his name was Clint, which parts down, and later on the night I went somewhere, and they're like, you know what that is, right? And I was like, no. They're like, that's the president of the company. I was like, that dude's like found me on the floor 3 times. And then he found me out here at AHR. And I was like, what are you doing here, man? He's like, oh, we're getting into HVAC. And I was like, oh, that's cool.
And it's cool, and like I think that we're gonna like change it. Like I think it's gonna be more and more where it's the general public kind of understands it, and like people are gonna realize that we're doing something that's, I don't want to say it's easy, but you can get into it and you can like do it well, and people appreciate it. And I think we're gonna start to change that culture around it. Like you said, we're not a bunch of dirty plumbers with our cracks hanging out. Like it's a cool, fun trade, and like people are gonna change their minds.
So I won't take any more time, but I want everybody to I want you to give your information out where everybody can find you. I mean, I'm sure everyone that's listening to me knows you already, but
Absolutely.
Put it out there.
At Viking Pipefitter is going to be my Instagram. I'm at the Viking Pipefitter on TikTok because I'm stupid. And I started one TikTok and it was Viking Pipefitter, and then like I lost the login, so I started another TikTok, and that's the one that people should know, and it's the Viking Pipefitter. I'm also on YouTube, even though it's hard to find people to find for some reason.
It's terrible. I tried tagging you. It wouldn't let me tag you. I tagged you, and I couldn't tag you.
Don't know what's going on. I'll figure that out. It's also Viking Pipefitter. I've got some other things coming out. I've got an apparel line coming and some other surprises coming very soon. So keep your eye out for those. And really the big one here is you want to remember to follow at Viega LLC. Because it's such a cool page.
LLC. Don't tag some anime guy like I did yesterday.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Luckily, one of my followers was like, dude, change that. You tagged some anime dude. He took a screenshot. I was like, what?
Yeah, I've tagged that same guy and like gotten messages back from him, and he's like, oh, thank you so much. And I'm like, wait a second, like this wasn't even on purpose, bud. I'm sorry, but those are kind of the big ones. And really, like, follow at Viega LLC because you get like. A lot of the information I do is fun, informative, but VLC does the giveaways. That's who you want to reach out when you're like looking for a DM in your area. If you're trying to find swag, like that's really that main page. I'm here to support. It's a separate thing, but we kind of help each other, balance each other a little bit. They get to be a little bit more technical, a little bit more proficient. I get to be out there, have a little bit more fun, and break the rules when I can.
You better watch out. Better watch out. I like Troy. Is Troy? Is it
Trainer Troy?
Yeah, he's cool. I heard him on some podcasts, so I started following him. I see him on there doing stuff too. But I love you guys' stuff, man. You're always out there just showing everything you guys do and having a good time. So
Absolutely.
That makes it fun, man. Make the trades fun and make the trades great.
Yeah, and I'd keep your eyes out. We're looking at a couple different programs, so you might see more vegan people coming out, and just different ways of giving you the same kind of information because everybody learns different.
Sweet. Well, that's all I got for today, man.
Dude, I appreciate you.
Dude, thank you.
Thank you so much.